Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today, guys, we're going to be jumping down into the world of Cardano. Here we have Cardano's ADA paired up with USDT on the hourly chart, and Binance is our data source. And as we can see here, we did actually have a little bit of volatility pulling us back down. This is a great reset, basically meaning that we can now move on further to the upside. So what we're going to do is we're going to reflect on our structure here. We have this kind of ABC structure moving on up, and what we're going to do is we're going to kind of see where this potentially could take us. We do have a micro 5-wave count potentially going on just over this side, so a move upwards towards our 39.07 and 40.85 seems to be very likely. So let's dive down right and into that. Okay, so we're going to start things off with this this structure just in here. Now, the interesting thing about this structure is that we've got a couple of different ways that this could turn. Okay, so we could look at this as maybe a wave 1, which contains 5 waves. We could look at this as an A wave, which contains 5 waves, or we just look at it as a 5-wave structure out of a 335 overall. It could also be in a flat correction. There's a couple of different areas that this can be. Okay, so we've got a few different options. It's too early in the development of this structure to know exactly which one this is likely to be. Okay, so we're going to just map this out for a second, because I do think that we're coming close to the lows of our corrective structure right in here. We would be aiming for about 37.09. Okay, so we're close to that. And if I measure the entire distance of this one here, then yeah, we want to be, actually we could have already done it. 37.45 would be typical. A little bit lower would put us more towards the 50% level and right on top of the 50 EMA. So we'll see. We don't have to come down much further, but you know, the 1-to-1 would be something that we'd look for in there. Basically, this is a short corrective structure. We could come down just a little bit more if we needed to, but you know, it's also possible that we've met the minimum requirements on that already. So we don't have to come down further. Just be a little bit aware that there is still momentum shifting to the downside, so a little bit lower, more towards our 50 EMA, just above the 37-cent level might be where we actually end up on this corrective structure. I'm going to take that as where we end it up coming down here, so I'm going to go ahead and put this down at about 37.9, and yeah, I'm just going to quickly just do some sense checks to make sure I'm happy with that. Let me just pull that back in. Yeah, I'm happy with 37.09. Okay, so that's going to be roughly where we think. Probably coincide with the 50 EMA, turn the 50 EMA into support just around here. If we do this, then we should be looking for our 5th wave final movement to come in right around here, basically between 39.36 and 40.10. I'll remove the fibs. We can see the little yellow box area in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Okay. Now, as I said, right, that 5-wave structure can either be an A wave, it can be just a 5-wave structure at the end of a movement of 335, and all these kind of other things. This obviously is our higher expectation of 39.07 to 40.85. However, as I said, this is a bit of a reset, a great reset on this particular C wave structure, which basically means that we might be able to kind of look at this as a giant A wave coming up. Okay, the pull to the downside here is our B wave low point, and we're up into our C wave, right? Now, that would actually have a more 1-to-1 ratio of 41.50, so it may be possible that the 5th wave overextends, etc. You can see that at the moment this 5th wave expectation potentially does get rejected from the 786 fib level, but you can see that we're right inside that sweet spot, okay? So we shouldn't really overly expect too much. I'm going to adjust this just a fraction because we can now adjust that higher because of our lows on our B wave. I'm going to pull that right into there. Okay, so we can kind of see that there's a higher expectation and it sits up there at 41.5 and 43.29. Now, I'm going to say it's a wild card. I don't think it's necessarily where we're going to play out. But if this does turn out to be a zigzag pattern, in which case, yeah, that's very much fair play up there, okay? And of course, that would be our C wave movement overall. And yeah, then that point there, that would basically mark the end of a potential B wave movement, which started up here at 44% flat, actually, meaning that we can then start talking about that move to the downside. But we'll see how it kind of goes. It's where we are at the moment on Cardano's ADA on our hourly chart there. So we can kind of see how that's that potentially does go out. I'm going to draw that as an A, B, and then potentially C up there. Okay, so you can see that as a big ABC structure, has an ABC structure inside the C wave, and of course that larger move is of course potentially a B wave movement, and all we're doing right now is tracking that A wave. And this sounds like a lot going on. If you're not familiar with Elliott Wave theory, check out 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏.com, linked in the description down below. I've created a 21-part video course that explains Elliott Wave theory, so you can kind of follow along these videos a little bit more clearly. Shows you how to try and draw Elliott Wave theory, tells you how to trade Elliott Wave theory, all that kind of usual stuff. So do check that out down below. Let's move over into the daily chart for ADA though, and here we can see that we are still looking at that move upwards here. You can kind of see the 200 EMA right up here. Okay, currently the 200 EMA is sat at 42.65 cents. This is where I do think we're going to see a lot of resistance. We can see that we are above the 50 EMA here, and we are correcting down quite nicely. So Cardano does look like it still has more momentum to be had to the upside, but again, it's not a guarantee. The momentum indicator doesn't represent price. It just shows you that there isn't really much strength in correcting down. There's not a lot of sellers right now pushing the price of ADA down. That's a positive thing. But also we need to see the demand coming in to push ADA's price back up. Otherwise you end up with the same situation where you go from oversold to overbought and you don't have any kind of major progression being made. Now, as you can kind of see, we are still looking for those lows. That hasn't changed. Now, if I take the stochastic off and throw in the volume, you can, of course, see that the volume has been decreasing as price has been pushing up. That's why we're kind of hitting the ceiling here. And although we are correcting down in places and the volume is dropping, we shouldn't really distract ourselves from the bigger macro here, which is that price has been decreasing, price has been going up while volume has been decreasing. You're running out of momentum to the upside, okay? It's pretty obvious to kind of see that. Pretty much, in fact, we only really have a decent volume coming in for one day, and outside of that, it was all kind of dusted. Now, when I go and bring the RSI in, then here we can actually see some bearish divergences. So here we have lower highs on price, but higher highs on the RSI. Okay, so again, we know that there's some bearish divergence here. Not only are we running out of demand as we're trying to push price up higher, but we also have a high overbought RSI with a lower high in terms of price. So again, not looking overly too positive from that kind of standpoint. Now, when I come over to the weekly chart, sorry about that, we can see that we have got our trend line here. Okay, we've got two touch points here, almost got close to this one, and this one has yet to be rejected from this level. We also have the 250 EMA getting closer, looking at the death cross, probably several weeks out, and we're overbought on our stochastic RSI, so we are looking at rejection from price. Again, we do have the bearishness here that we have up here. We have basically a lower high in price, yet we have a higher stochastic RSI. So again, not overly positive from that standpoint. If I come and throw the volume in, you can see that the volumes are on this weekly chart decreasing over time, so lack of volume. Although there's a couple of weeks here where you can see some increase in volume just down at the bottom here, we don't want to get ourselves caught out in a trap of being too micro with these movements. If we actually start taking a look at kind of the bigger picture here from May 2022, volumes are just on the decrease and not on an increase. So lack of demand still remains to be true today. Now, as I come over into the RSI, you can see that the RSI is quite high. Again, we have a lot of bearish divergence in here still. The RSI has moved up much faster than the price. And as a result, we can see that there's basically lower highs, but higher highs on the, so lower highs on price, but higher highs on the RSI. Again, we can just take this recent high from August of 2022. We can see that we have come down lower, yet from that time, we can see we've come up higher on our RSI. So again, we're not looking great from a momentum point of view, but again, this isn't anything unusual. If you follow the channel, we've been saying that this whole move to the upside has not been backed by demand. It has only really been created through the DXY dropping the way that it has done, and the fact that you need more dollars to buy your assets these days. So call it a fake pump, call it artificial, call it manipulation, call it whatever you want. one of the things that's really clear is there is a lack of demand coming in for these cryptocurrency assets at the moment. So the actual definition of a bull market is when demand outpaces the supply, and we haven't seen that demand outpace the supply just yet. All you have seen is how the DXY has impacted price of assets. So kind of keep that in mind. I'm going to leave the video right there. If you found it useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new, subscribe. And if you haven't yet joined us in Discord, check it out. Linked in the description down below. Guys, until the next one, have a fantastic day.